Hey, sister, sitting store, what am I about to preach on? Damn, sister, close the door. Watch what you step out on. I said, hey, sister, so before you become a sin, I said, hey, sister, there is more, even if you think there isn't. When you live your life day to day, there will always be obstacles in your way. But don't let that get you down, girl.
Hey, sister.
Hey, sister.
It is day 28. Oh my goodness, of our 30 days of HERstory 2021. This has been, thank you. This has been really amazing. I've been looking forward to these conversations in the afternoon. And thank you for being here, for adding your name, face, and story to this platform. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I didn't even realize that we were matching the motif and the color scheme of HERstory. I'm digging it.
Well done, well done. See, that was the foresight. No, I really want to let everybody know that you are probably the person who is most accustomed to seeing your face on a screen in our little video compared to everybody else. You know, you're probably like, oh yeah, that's me again. You know,
yeah. Not even because of the acting though, just because of all the Zoom meetings in this life that we've been experiencing the past year. So it actually has very little to do with my profession, more so with the landscape.
Yes, that is so true. We have been staring at ourselves a lot, haven't we? And it even changes like how you like, you know, where you look. Do I look at myself? Do I look at them? Like, do I look straight into the camera? Then that's weird. So no, eye contact becomes weird.
Funny is I still don't have it right. So I'm still never quite sure what it looks like at the end of a Zoom, but I always look in the eye of the person I'm speaking to, even though, as you brought up,
they
like,
don't know
making eye contact, but I feel like somehow you can feel it. I feel like somehow, you know, I'm looking at you versus like now I'm looking at myself. Like that's, you know what I mean? And now that I'm looking at myself, I'm like, what is my hair doing? What is happening over here? Maybe I should spend more time looking at myself. Unless I'm trying to make eye contact.
I thought it was all like, you know, an asymmetrical. I thought it was a style. So let's just pretend it was.
But then it's like something happened here. But anyways, let's just stay focused.
Oh my gosh. So Lisa, Michelle, I'm really looking forward to this. I was, you know, really happy to be backstage on my husband's podcast and Facebook Live as you guys were chit-chatting, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to talk to her. So thank you again for coming on to do this. Now I want you to tell everyone about you, who you are, what you do, everything.
Oh man. Well, I don't know how much time we have. Well, I'm Lisa Michelle, full name Lisa Michelle Cornelius. I'm an actor, I'm a singer, I'm an entrepreneur. I have owned other things in the past, but right now the businesses I own are Aries Garden, which is a spiritual self-care shop that sells like spiritual tools, like incense, sage, crystals, all of the things that folks meditate and ground with and connect with spirit. And I also have a music company called Orange Moon Entertainment. That's orangemoonentertainment.com. And in the before times, we have live performances, full band of R&B, soul, jazz, funk, all that good stuff. For now, though, you know, as we wait for things to open up, we still have some like virtual services. So like we can do a hologram, like a virtual musical greeting for folks, much in the spirit of Cameo, but although we're not celebrities, you know, our camera skills and our talents can deliver personal greetings and stuff like that. So like most businesses, we've had to shift and pivot into what we're doing to fit what is possible in this moment. But yeah, well, the thing that I'm most passionate about out in terms of career wise is my acting. It's on an upward swing. And to be fair, I feel like it's always on an upward swing, even when it's moving very slowly, which it can do very slowly. I always try to keep things in perspective. I'm an optimist, if you will, and I'm always like, you know what? As slow as this year might have been, or that year might have been, it's still always moving forward. And there has been so many opportunities in this pandemic year that were presented that honestly weren't there before. So there's been some positive shifts as well. And and outside of the career, I'm a family woman. I'm a wife. I'm a mommy. And I have a million siblings, a million nieces and nephews. So definitely a family focused person as well.
Yes.
I hope that encapsulated all of the things.
Well, I mean, I'm curious because this is a conversation I have with young people all the time. How did you figure out that you were passionate about acting?
I'd say it's like, as cheesy as this sounds, I say it's like falling in love. Like it wasn't like, acting sounds good, or that like it just hit me like a ton of bricks. So I was 14 and I grew up in Mississauga, and we had taken a class trip to see our first live theater production. It was a Mervish production of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. So before then, I don't think I had seen any type of theater. So I'm going from like 0 to 60, from seeing nothing to seeing a Mervish multi-million-dollar production. And it was starring Donny Osmond at the time. So he was playing Joseph in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. I was like blown away. I was like, all my senses were overloaded with like the lights, the color, the huge ensemble. I don't know if you've ever seen Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat on stage, not just by Donny Osmond, but honestly, I haven't seen a bad production of the show because the music is so lively. It's full of color given the nature of the context. So, and just the surround sound and the full audience and the audience cheering and stuff. I remember it was the last number of the show where all the performers get on stage. So probably 25 to 30 of them. And they're like dancing their heart out. The music is going, the lights are going crazy. And I remember being like, they're getting paid to do that? And the audience is like vibrating, and then they get all this applause. Like my senses were like overwhelmed. I was like, this is an incredible feeling. Like, I have to feel this again. And I remember I didn't go to an art school or anything like that. It was just a regular high school. And when we got back to class, I remember being like, oh my gosh, doesn't everybody want to be a performer now? Everybody's like, it was okay. Like, I'm like, what? But so that was around, I think, 8th grade, however old you are at 14. And it was from that moment that I was just like, okay, I am a performer. Like, I have to make this a part of my life. So then going to 9th grade, a friend of mine who also felt the same way, still a great friend of mine today, Daniel Sanaya, we both had that same feeling of like, no, live performance is where it's at. Like, I have, like, whatever that feeling was, I need to incorporate that into my life. So we didn't go to an school, so we didn't even have a drama club. Our school had plays maybe once in a while or whatever, if a teacher felt like doing it on the side, because they didn't get paid to do these extra things. Right? So if there was a teacher had that happened to be that year that wanted to facilitate a play, then there might be one. But me and my friend were like, no. We started a drama club. We roped in our drama teacher who was like really invested in her work. And to this day, that high school has a drama council because of your girl. And
that's right, girl.
But it was that, and like we made this council so that we could have a play every year. And in addition to that, we started doing community theater, which is unpaid, unprofessional, but still done on a good scale. Like they get well supported, or sometimes they get government funding and stuff like that. So I was doing in-school plays. I was doing musical theater in the community. I was taking voice lessons. Like, it was like all of the things. I was just like, okay, no, this is what I'm doing. And it started from one show, and just honestly, like I said, it was like falling in love, where I didn't choose it. It was just, I was filled to the brim with sensory overload, where I was like, this is magic and I want it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I could totally understand that. And I want to pull out, because you are depicting exactly what I share with young people when they're trying to figure out what their passions are. You had a moment where all of your emotions were heightened. the world stopped and you were just taken over by this moment. And then when the moment was done, you were so impacted that you made a decision and you continued your action after the moment. That is one of the big clues for helping, as our young people are watching, to define our passions. And I love that, that you had that conversation with other friends who were like, it was all right.
Did you see the same thing I just saw? Like, what? But you're totally right. Like, that didn't stop me. I was just like, well, I'm not going to wait for that feeling to happen again.
Yes.
Like,
I'm going to create it
again and again and again.
Yeah. And I think that's a common theme we've seen with some of our visionary women, right? Like we know that we need to have this thing, so we go make it happen. If we could just sit down and wait for it to happen, like you said, maybe a teacher might have a play and maybe you would sign up.
Ain't nobody got time for that. We're aging by the minute. Ain't nobody got time to wait for other people to make things happen for us.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. We're aging by the minute. That's hilarious. Oh my goodness. But yeah, that was, I get that though. I get that feeling because my first Broadway play was Color Purple. Yeah. That was
You saw that on Broadway?
That was my intro. Yeah. The joys of going to school in New York, and we had it was like $25 for students right now, right? So we saw tons of plays.
You play every weekend. What? I'm so jealous right now.
Don't be. I could give you a full recap. I'm gonna need you to act it out and sing it out if we're gonna I might ruin it, so let's not do that. But yes, I totally I get that love. I did not walk away with the same need to recreate it as you did, but I definitely love to be in it. Yes. Nice. I'm certainly a patron. I'll bask in it. Yeah.
Nice. That's just as good. It takes all kinds.
Exactly. Right. Because if there's nobody to watch, right? So yeah. Exactly. Now, you went through this kind of this whirlwind transformation at a pretty young age, where you tapped into a part of you. This thing was awakened in you. It's not from what you're saying, you were doing 500 drama clubs and what they call them, triple threat classes at 5, yeah. I do have to say, and I have to give credit to my parents, especially my dad. May he rest in peace. He passed in 2014. Because even though it wasn't until I saw that show when I was in 8th grade that really was this is what I want to do, I had seeds planted in me already that were building a performer, but I just didn't know it until that point. Mm-hmm. So from the age of 6, I'll never forget, and I told the story even at my dad's funeral because I'll never forget it and I'll never take it for granted, that those if you grew up in any burb, they give those yearly calendars of so in Mississauga it was the city of Mississauga calendar book of activities that the city sponsors that you could join. Yes. So whether it's horseback riding or snowshoeing or all these lessons that the community center offers or that are offered around the city. So it was now it's probably all digital, but when I was 6, it was a big phone book type book. And my dad put it in front of me when I was 6 years old. I was sitting at the table just finishing breakfast or something. He put it down. He goes, "Oh, choose 2 things you want to do." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Choose 2 things, whatever is in there that you're interested in doing." And I was I was 6 and I was I get to do, if I choose any 2 things in here, I can do it. And he was yes. And keep in mind, we were not rich. I am the sixth of 6 children. So I'm the youngest of 6. So it's not it was a money thing, we just had money to do whatever, but it was just something he wanted to do, a gift that he wanted to give me. And so I chose dancing and piano lessons. So I started off taking jazz, ballet, and tap because of the school I went to, it wasn't a highly competitive dance school, just a little dance school. And then I took piano lessons simultaneously. And then it whittled down to I didn't like ballet, I didn't like tap. So I ended up just doing jazz and piano.
and I did both of them for 10 years. So from 6 to 16, actually, with the jazz, and 6 to 14 with the piano. And then I just, you become a teenager, you're in high school, and you become disinterested in like doing these extracurriculars. So I didn't continue them after that. But what those things did is each of those things, both the piano and the dance classes, had yearly recitals. Mm-hmm. So from 6, I was used to getting up in front of people and doing things that maybe I wasn't so good at the time, and having an audience and doing them anyway, and being terrified, especially the piano recitals, because the dance recitals were more fun. You were in a class of people, so there wasn't really much room to get nervous because you had so many people on stage with you. But the piano recitals were stressful because you're just like the 6-year-old playing the song that you're not quite sure that you're playing great, and in front of an audience. But I was in front of an audience year after year, twice a year since I was 6 years old. But it wasn't that in those moments that I knew that, like, oh, I want to be a musician the rest of my life. It just felt like most kids probably feel like, oh, this is something my dad wants me to do, so I'm going to do it. But it was at the 14 that it all kind of culminated. So I wonder, I guess I'll never really know, if I was washed over by the feeling was more of a climax of all the things that I had been doing already, or what, you know what I mean? But nonetheless, I was prepared for the opportunity that hit me, because I had a foundation, because I was nurtured at home by parents who were not performers. My parents are not artists. They're not even close, but came to this country. They're Jamaican and gave us opportunities to try new things, to do new things, whatever it was, just to keep us busy and not idle. And culminated into something that became my whole life.
Yeah, I'm going to put a pin in you were prepared for the opportunity and circle back to that, because that was our morning affirmation today. And I, first of all, condolences on the passing of your dad. And it's really heartwarming to hear of the relationship that you had with him and the impact that he had on your life. And something I want parents to hear, that's really profound. And for our community, growing up as melanated Caribbean people, Daddy let you choose.
Yeah.
That's big, because
what I want to do.
Yeah, that's a major paradigm shift for the way how we parent as Caribbean people, because you normally tell the child, well, you're going to do this.
This is what you do. Mind you, once I chose those things, it got really Caribbean, because I think after like the second year or something, I wanted to quit piano, and he's like, "Oh no!"
Now you're gonna stick to it.
Now you're gonna do it. So it got Caribbean at a certain point where it's just like, you started for we didn't waste those 2 years. You're gonna keep going. Yes, but I hear what you're saying.
It's so powerful that at that age, you wouldn't have known, about passions or anything like that, but you just had a gravitation towards something. You're given every possible option.
For that book for a time, I was so excited that just having the options. There were so many things in there.
Yeah.
I remember at first landing on horseback riding, being like, "Can I do horseback riding?" And he goes, "Sure." And it was my mom who's like, "Where's she gonna get horse from?" She goes, "You better go back." I'm gonna go back in that book. So my dad, even though not an artist, definitely had a little bit of that dreamer spirit that I did.
Yes.
My mom had to reel it. She's like, I have to look and figure something else out.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I'm so glad that you had that experience and that we get to learn from that experience today, because the power of choice, for our young girls, it's big to be a part of the decision-making process for yourself. Even if your decision is not, the final and accepted one, you at least get to participate and flex those decision-making muscles, and that's a big deal. So kudos to mommy and daddy for that. That's a really big deal. Yeah.
Big. And even fast forward to all the years later when I decided like I want to be a performer, like in my life, like as a career. I was never, ever, ever, ever detracted from that, from my parents. And they're born and bred Jamaican. And I hear from other, not even just Caribbean folks. I'm not even just putting this on Caribbean folks. It's from anyone born outside of North America. Like I have artist friends who are Asian, who are Eastern European whose parents thought they were crazy and wanted to talk them out of it as well. Like, as long as you're not from here, there's definitely different cultural takes on what it means to be an artist full time. But my parents never, ever, ever detracted me from it. They were just like, well, cool. Their only stipulation was that you have to go to school. So like there'll be no dropping out of school. Like so figure it out. So I had the option to go to post-secondary school for theater or arts, and I auditioned for theater schools and I got in, and it was me. I was the only blockage that didn't choose it because I was so afraid, because I didn't know any real life professional artists. Like, I only knew my friends who like me who did stuff on the side, but I didn't know anyone who was a real artist who did it as a profession. So I was my only blockage in choosing theater school. So I actually went to school for something totally different, even though I knew at that time that, like, I'm an artist. So I ended up circling back to it anyways. So I almost wish I just followed through. But I never had that detraction from my family or my parents. They were always like, great, go make it, and go be big and bring it back.
That's a big point there, that, you had the support, but that fear, and that not having the connections and maybe even enough representation, so that even if you didn't have someone close by that you knew personally, seeing enough of the faces that looked like you, enough voices that sounded like yours, to then be that comfort to say, okay, well, yes, I can do this, and that being the big pullback. And I think that that's a really big point for us to pay attention to, especially at that tender age, right? Like that 18, 19, 20, as young women, we're now coming into ourselves. We're making some really big life decisions at that time. And it's a very delicate age, and so I can understand the play it safe at that point. But then to see how life brings you right back, because this is where your love and your passion is, right? This is where your heart is. And
right back. Yeah.
Exactly. And we were talking about that preparation and opportunity, which, has been given as a definition of success. People like to call it being lucky, right? So that's what we were talking about. It's like luck.
Close. No,
Exactly, right?
Everything I got, I worked very hard for.
Right. And so if we aren't prepared, then it means that when the opportunity presents itself, we won't even notice it. It comes abundantly to so many of us all at the same time, but only the prepared even recognize it as an opportunity. And so then it seems like a lucky break to everyone else, because they weren't in that frame of mind or in that flow to accept the opportunity. And so the call was, let's continue to be prepared. We're talking about these big visions that we have as visionary women and all of these things we want to do. So let's remain in that, that vein of making sure that we're constantly prepared for when the opportunity does present itself. And that requires, again, this conversation on vision. It requires us to come back to this point of these big things that we're seeing out there and we're feeling in here. And, sometimes it's confusing because it's so much. You're talking about being 14 and being just completely overwhelmed by this thing. And in that moment, like you see yourself there. I have to go make this happen again. I have to create this feeling again. In your opinion, what would you say is the importance of vision?
I'd say the importance of vision is, that's tough. You have to see yourself somewhere before you can get there. You have to see the end result. It's almost like you can't just put in your GPS, take me somewhere.
Right.
Siri would be like, I don't understand. Like, you know what I mean? And you won't go anywhere, and she won't give you a map for anywhere because you didn't tell her where you want to go. So you may not know how to get there, but you have to have some sort of vision. It doesn't even have to be that specific, you know what I mean? But you have to have some sort of vision of where you're going. Using the GPS example again, like, you can put, even if I put United States, it'll still give me a map for somewhere. It'll take me somewhere. You know what I mean? But the more specific I can be, the better, obviously. But as long as you put in somewhere, you will start getting guidance as to where you want to go. So vision is important, and because you can almost use, not almost, you can use vision specifically in terms of closing your eyes and actually imagining yourself where you want to be. If it's on a red carpet, if it's on a podium collecting an award, that's where you want to be. If it's, standing over your patient because you're a neurosurgeon, like close your eyes, pretend you can feel the tools in your hand and you have the know-how in your brain. Like, you have to see it. Of course, could be a million steps between where you are now and where that vision is. But if you don't know where you're going, like, it's going to be so much harder to know whether you're on the right path, to know if you're heading in the right direction. So I think people get tripped up when they don't know specifically what they want to do. And I feel for them, because a lot of folks have said to me, I remember growing up when I knew from time, like, that I wanted to be a performer. And it didn't occur to me, in my youth, that, other people aren't passionate about things the same way. And I would have friends who'd be like, oh, I'm so jealous. Like, you know what you want to do. Like, I don't feel about work the way you feel about your work. And I'm like, that's so true. Like, I don't take that for granted anymore. Like, the fact that I know so clearly what I want to do, and that there's so many out there who don't know what they want to do. But I think they do know what they want to do, because if you know what you don't want to do, then you do have an idea of what you want to do. You do. Like, there's two ends to that stick. So if you're feeling trapped, like, try not to get so specific, but use your vision to be like, okay, I may not know specifically what profession I want, because that is such a narrow thing. But, like, what do I like to do? Oh, I like children. Oh, I like being outside. I like sunlight. Oh, I like having free time. I don't like being on a schedule. Like, right there, like, those few points, like, there's some jobs that funnel into, like, those descriptions. Or if somebody like, I actually don't like being around other people. I like thinking about things and working out problems by myself. I kind of like work better, like, isolated than in a team. Like, if you even have a vision of yourself and knowing that that's what you like, then again, that, like, narrows, like, the direction and that you want to go in. So if you can see where you want to go, you can start stepping in that direction. So I think vision is so important, but we put so much pressure on it. If you can't see a defined picture, then don't make it so defined. Like, at least see your general, pull back the lens a little bit and find yourself a bigger picture. And then as you hone in on what that bigger picture looks like, then you can start zooming in until your goal is there. But you have to start somewhere.
Exactly. I so believe in that. Take the step back and take the bird's eye view. Get the bigger picture, and the bigger picture is drawn out by the things that you talked about. What comes naturally to me? What are things I love to do? What are things I could do in my sleep? What are things I like to do, but maybe I'm not so good at it? And so I would actually put in a lot of effort to learning more about it. All of these things start helping us to clarify. And there's a lot of, deciding what you want based on what you don't want, and sometimes we got to spend some time in there so that we could decide, oh, definitely not that.
Definitely not. Exactly. You know what you don't want. Chances are you know what you want.
Exactly. Yeah, so true. And I love the GPS analogy, because you can start your journey with a broad destination.
Be broad. Yeah.
And as you get closer, you then start making new decisions, and then you can specify, and you could even change paths, know. My biggest thing is, as long as you keep moving and not just sit down and give up, right? As long as you pick a direction and keep moving, you can always correct the direction. But if you give up, I mean, really not much we can do there.
Drive off a cliff, driven off a cliff. That's
right. I mean, Thelma and Louise it, and then that's it, right? So we don't know.
But yeah, no, there's so many people in the industry that are just not taking a ghost on the screen, but mostly by career repercussions and things like that. So
it is that you're looking to grow. Oh, yes.
I love my co-chair the other day, because, like, for the past year, in council tables and it was like a meeting of leaders. It sounds ridiculous. But No, I don't mean that sounds ridiculous. It sounds like way more serious than like in my mind that it is. But we were meeting other diversity and inclusion committee chairs from other unions and organizations in our industry. So me and my co-chair were co-chairs of the diversity and inclusion committee at ACTRA, which is for performers. But then there we have the Directors Guild of Canada, we have the Writers Guild of Canada, we have the CMPA. So I'm forgetting what the acronym stands for, but it's for Canadian producers. And then we have IATSE, which represents folks who work in crew, like film crews and things like that. So all of these organizations and unions have their own diversity and inclusion committees and somebody who sits at the top. So we're recognizing the fact that we're talking about unifying voices and getting together, that like we're a performers union. We can only do so much without the collaboration and the agreement of the rest of the industry. Because like if actors are like, we want to be treated fairly, and like the rest of the industry is like, what? Like we're just trying to make money. We're not even hearing you, like kind of thing, right? So we recently have started like meeting as like leaders to get at least some kind of unified voice and figure out what the issues are holistically and move forward and things like that. And me and my co-chair acknowledge that we're always, especially because we're actors. So of course, don't get me wrong, like everyone who's leads in those other capacities and those other organizations are incredibly intelligent, incredibly smart, powerful people. But being that we're leaders in our area and we're actors, so we already like to talk a lot. It's like sometimes we can get into a space and just like dominate verbally, because there might be like, you know, somebody from the Writers Guild who has a ton of great ideas and all these things to say, but they're writers primarily. They might just, you know, like maybe, right? So then we're like, you know what, maybe sometimes we can go into a meeting and just do more listening, like just step on the side. And listening is such a huge, so important for everything, in relationships for one, but really in everything that you're doing. Like, how do you know where anybody else stands in regards to their life, your life, life in general, the topics at hand, if all you're doing is projecting and speaking, like kind of thing. So we're like, yeah, let's try that. I mean, it's hard. I like to talk, so I'm like actively, like when they talk about the term actively listening, I feel like they were talking about actors, like, because it's like it's an action for me to listen. Like I have to be like, okay, like hands on the table, like just listening. I'm going to do that. You could ask my husband for sure too. Like listening is definitely something I'm still working on. But yeah, I love that you said that, because I am finding that as I mature, that there is so much power in when to choose to be silent, when to choose to be actively listening, and sometimes letting people express themselves, and then sometimes if they're your adversary, letting them talk themselves into a corner. Be like, maybe at some point they'll hear what they're saying out loud to themselves. Because my thing used to be in a group setting or even in just a conversation, if someone was struggling to articulate a point, is like try to finish it for them. And I'm like, you know, unless they're a child, like maybe that's not what they need. Maybe they need to finish it, or maybe if they're not making a good point, maybe they need to hear that too. Like let me take a step back.
That's big for our visionary women who are the out there trailblazing, you know, leading the charge and ready to come and just fix the situation and let's be on about it. That's a big thing for us, is to hold that space, you know, to actually hold it back and create opportunity for others to speak. Many years ago, I kind of figured out one of my superpowers was my two things. I had a loud voice, and I always recognized the overlooked person. And so in group settings, I would kind of notice the people who want to say but wouldn't, and I would interject with whoever was talking too much. I'd be like, excuse me, hi, thank you. I believe that person is trying to get a point across, and then just pass it over. And I did that even in high school, you know, recognizing recognizing that need for somebody else to kind of just open the door, you know. just open the door and then step back and let other people walk through it, Yeah.
Nice. That's a good
And
moderator and a good host ability for sure.
right. Yes. And also your point on speaking up for others in the industry. I'm not in the industry, but I did have a photo shoot last year, and I asked a million times about people being able to do natural hair. And so I went a little nervous, and the gentleman who did my hair, did his thing. And I just could not feel good about it. And I tried so hard, and I held it back because I was like, I don't want to be like, drama or whatever. And, and I held it back, and I tried to get through the shoot and smile. And then someone else gave me a call. There were at least 2 or 3 other people in that space who said, no, we can't do this to her. And they called me and said, would you like to reshoot and do your own hair? And I didn't say, the most I said at one point, I was like, okay, just, can somebody give me like a spray bottle or something? And let me just try to, and I tried to just make it a little better. But somebody else saw it, and all of the people who spoke up for me did not look like me. And so it was really, I felt so calm at the reshoot. I felt like somebody stood up for me and somebody spoke for me in a space where I wasn't sure if I should have or could have, and that was really powerful. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not in the industry. I wasn't gonna get paid for this. This wasn't my livelihood. So how much more crucial is the role that you play when it comes to somebody putting food on their table, and having that confidence to continue?
That story just makes me so angry, because if people who did not look like you could acknowledge that this guy or girl, whoever it was, did a crappy job on your hair, why didn't this person who's supposed to be a professional, how come they didn't recognize that they did a crappy job? Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes it's not about, like, even within your own community, there's going to be, even within like Black hairstylists, Black braiders, people who are better than others. There's some people who are pretty good at it and some people who are excellent. But if you braid, you shouldn't be terrible. Like, you shouldn't ever fall into that category, or you shouldn't be doing this as a profession. And so it's just mind-boggling to me that people who aren't hair professionals and who aren't Black could recognize immediately that A, you weren't happy, and B, that you didn't look your best. How come the person who was hired as a professional can't see that? Like, I
chalked that up to youth. That one, he was young. And I really wanted to, I couldn't find him afterwards, but I really wanted to have a conversation that says, look, I know you're young and it's a pandemic. And so there are probably not lots of jobs, so you're probably just grabbing at what comes. But, there's so much more respect to being able to say, I don't know, than saying that you do know. And so I had chalked that particular experience up to youth and inexperience, and maybe just needing to have a conversation that says, look, nobody's going to look down on you for saying, for being upfront and saying I can't, but look at now how this has affected you. Because like I said, I'm not in the industry. I'm never going to see this person again. But everyone else in that room were industry decision makers. And so now, how have you affected the future possibility of them calling you back? And so
it's only affected that terrible stylist who now maybe they won't call him back. I hope that's
what I mean, right? Yeah. So now he doesn't get a call back because he didn't, represent himself sufficiently to say, what he can and can't do. And so there were so many different people that were going to be in the photo shoot. They could have put him with somebody else, right? And let him do somebody else's hair. But I even asked when I got there, I was like, you do know how to do Black hair. And I'm looking and I'm like, I don't see oils. I don't see water. I don't see conditioner. I don't see
stressed just hearing about it. I'm so stressed.
But I honestly think that, you know, what you do is so important in terms of that speaking up, because I could have walked away from that experience feeling really low about it. I could have walked away from that experience just being like, oh my God, I'm glad this is done. But I didn't, because somebody spoke up. Somebody said, oh, wait, hang on a second. You know, look at her photos. And I didn't even realize I was giving it off because I was trying so hard to smile. I was trying so hard.
You're at a photo shoot. Somebody literally has a lens and light on you, and you know you don't look your best because somebody messed it up. Like I would be livid. Like, and now like I can't. Okay, I won't name the project because I don't want to incriminate anyone. But I was doing a project last year, and this is now when my voice has been stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so maybe Lisa from years past would have handled it differently, but this time I was like, no. I was getting my makeup done for a role, and I was sitting there. First swipe, as she puts on my foundation, was the lightest thing I had ever seen. And to me, like, it's just anger-fying because, again, there's going to be makeup artists who are better than others, like, but you have eyes, like you're blind. Like all it really is, it's not even about race. When it comes to hair, it's about race because our texture is very different from white people. It's very different from Asian people. I get that. You should still know how to do it, but I get why it takes two separate types of training.
Yes.
A face is just color. Like my skin is the same. Like it feels the same. It has
like match.
Flesh and like
yeah,
color match.
It's just match. Yeah.
You pick this up, and you know that doesn't match. Like it's. You know, and I'm not to diminish makeup artists. I know it's more complicated that, but this is where we were with this. She puts a stripe on my face, and it's clearly too light. And I was just like, okay, like maybe she's gonna blend it into something, because you know sometimes you don't comment until she gets a little further in, because maybe she's gonna blend something. Then I see her putting this all over my face. I go, no, like no. And she was like, what? But like, I remember it was just almost like guttural because I was just like, there's just no bloody way. And because this was a bigger role for me too. So I'm like, I'm going to want to use this footage on my demo reel. And if I look horrendous, it's going to really drive me nuts that I can't use this footage because I was performing well, but I look crazy. So I was like, no. And she's just like, oh, what? I'm like, that's too light. Like, that's not... Like what it looked like, she goes, oh, that was what was in your pouch or whatever, right? Because like I was on that set for a few days, and it was a different makeup artist, and then they usually put what colors they use. I go, well, my pouch then got mixed up with somebody else's because this is not the color that I had. But it was just making me more and more angry as we were having this conversation because I'm like, but you have eyes, like you can see that. This is not even about race anymore. This is like, you're so incompetent. I don't understand. So yeah, like that was just like a small example where I'm just like, no. We're arguing until this is changed, or I'm just going to go to the bathroom and change it because I can't, I don't understand how you're a professional and anybody with eyes can see that this is not it. I mean, I can laugh about it, but I'm like, it's so prevalent in the industry that is mind blowing that like, how did you get your union card? So then it goes all the way back to like the requirements of the union need to be shifted because they require all of these things that don't really include black training for black hair or black skin. So like to get into some of the crew unions as a professional unionized makeup artist or hairstylist per se, you have to have like a license from certain beauty schools, whatever, that don't even teach black hair. So so you getting this beauty license to get you into the union doesn't even require you to know how to do black hair. Like it's just like being like, I'm a mechanic, but I only know how to fix purple cars. Like you either fix cars or you don't. Like, and that should be the same with you either know how to do human hair or you don't. Like you can't just do some people and not others. So like that's what I think people mean by systemic discrimination. That like, so by the time if it takes them, if they can get into their professional unions without ever touching black hair, and then then the unions are where people who put on films and TV shows are hiring their crew from. then like where is the room in here for like stylists who are trained in black hair, much less black hairstylists? Like, because as a black hairstylist, and we know black hairstylists can do anybody's hair, so it almost makes sense for them to hire only black stylists because they can do everybody. But yeah, no, there's so much change that's gotta happen. But I'm grateful that I'm more confident now than I ever have been, and still not as confident as I want to be because I still want to work. But but I'm definitely more vocal than I used to be.
Yeah, and kudos to yourself, your team, and all those who are starting to make those changes, because I am aware that there have been new certifications for people who are already in the industry, having to go and do, you know, black hair care, black makeup, and have these additional certifications. So yeah, it's
not
good.
mandated yet, at least not from what I've seen. I think that there's some of that happening in some pockets of the States, but I think we're definitely working towards that, making that happen here in Canada. Like, it needs to happen for sure.
Yeah, it's starting, and that's good, right? That
I know that we're more vocal about it, so you and your wax skills won't be tolerated much longer. So I think at the very least, even though it might not be mandated in any rule book, like they know that like we see you now, we see you. And like, not to have you looking toe up on camera.
Honestly, as you're talking, I'm just here like, go, Lisa Michelle, go.
So funny.
Absolutely. Now, you are an actress. You take a script that's given to you, you take a character that you've accepted, and you portray this character. You know, you find out more about her and, you know, who she should be through you. And you get to play this amazing make-believe and, you know, find all these different sides of yourself. Oh, what about writing your own story? How does it make you feel that you can actually take control of your narrative and decide on the version of your story that should be told?
I don't think personally that I'm ready for a biography yet. I think I'm moving too quickly in life to nail down any one part of the story that I want to retell in a movie form. Also, I have great respect for script writers because that's a skill unto itself, and that's not where my skill set lies. Not to say that I'll never do it or that I will never try. That's not to say that, but it's not a passion of mine to want to write a script. And I started producing for the first time last year, and again, not something I'm passionate about. I'm really passionate about performance. I love diving into another character. I love embodying something. I love being a conduit and a channel for stories to be told. I love, being a channel. I love having. This sounds crazy. As I said a lot, I love having like spirits drop through me and telling it and letting them express themselves that way. Like I love that feeling. I feel like I'm gifted at it. I feel open to it. And again, not to say that any of that's going to change, not to say that any of that wouldn't change, and that at some point for sure, I'm sure I'd want to, I'll say, create a story. So I probably would still get a script writer to do it because I'm not passionate about script writing at all. But I'm sure at some point I'd want to write or create a story loosely, maybe based on something that I made up. But I'm not interested in this moment. Yeah, I'm happy to perform.
Yeah, I love that you answered that. Like, you're the only person who answered that from the lens of actually writing it because of your industry. You know, like nobody else was planning to write anything, you know, like physically. But like you had like an industry response. I'm here loving this. I'm like, that's like the professional in the moment at this point.
Oh, okay. If you mean like write my story from like the story of my life, like
yeah.
That's what gives me like when do I want to write my life story? Because I've acted so so long. I was just like, oh, I don't think I'm ready to write a movie about me. You know, I really want to see that. That's hilarious. Oh, well, I guess holistically, I feel like I'm already doing that. I do whatever I want. I'm always writing my own story. I've been blessed, like I said, with parents who kind of let me do whatever. And that has to do with, as my older siblings would say, the fact that I was the youngest of 6. So I was given a lot of autonomy that they weren't. I was given a lot of allowances that they weren't. Because they're always
they broke down your parents by the time you got there.
Broke down the parents by the time I got there. As I always say, like by the time I came along, because I'm the 6th, my parents were like old people by the time I was in my teens. Like I shouldn't say old people, but they were like older than they were with my younger siblings who went through the gamut. So I went from that to like always feeling like free and being the youngest. So like being like cared for and supported and like protected by my older siblings too. So I had like a house full of people who had like my best interest in mind. You know, I was spoiled. Okay? To put it plainly, I was spoiled. and then going into a relationship where I still feel spoiled. Like my husband's so easygoing. He's like when I hear some stories of other people's relationships, I'm like, oh, that's not how it goes. Like, what are you talking about? Like, my husband won't let me do X, Y, and Z. I'm like, that's a statement that'll never come out of my mouth. So I feel like that being said, because I've always been blessed with to be surrounded by people who honor and trust my voice and respect me and all that stuff. I feel like I've always been writing my story, that like for right or for wrong, like not to say that I always make the best decisions, for right or for wrong, I'm always in control and moving in the direction that I want to move, and I might move back and pivot and turn if I felt like I made a move that's not right for me or whatever it is. But and I feel for people who don't have that, because I'm so grateful to have that. Like, the only barrier I ever have in my life is myself, or is like fear that creeps in, and someone would call it the saboteur, like the things that drop into your mind about like doubts and worry. And like, those are my only obstacles. Like my obstacles are never the people around me. And I'm grateful for that. So that being said, I have always felt for a long time that I'm in control of my story.
Yeah. So if you want to raise girls who feel like they're in control of their stories, spoil them.
And I mean, my husband and I are creating a monster with my little one. Because I'm already spoiled. So she gets she has a mom who's already used to like nobody telling me what to do. So now we give her so much autonomy. She gets to do whatever. So it's like this balance of like, okay, we want to keep her in check attitude wise.
Right. Yeah.
But like she's so and you don't want to like close that off either. You know what I mean? So it's just like it is this balancing act of letting the kids be as free to explore themselves, explore life, to learn, and then also tapering it with like, okay, you gotta have respect for authority. You gotta have rules, like, watch your mouth. All that stuff.
This is still a Caribbean house, Like
will not talk to me like that. Exactly.
Oh my gosh. But I love that though. I love that I am writing the story of my life, because I do what I want. And I really want to pull that out, because I do what I want. Like, we're allowed to want. I think that that's such a big thing for us as the caretakers and the doers for everybody else. We are allowed to want, and that's it's so simple. It's just a few words in one statement, but it's a big deal for some of us to allow ourselves to want something and to know that it's okay to want that thing, and like you said, the consequences are ours, for good or for bad.
For good or for bad. Yeah. And that's the only way you're going to learn. You'll figure it out. You'll figure out if what you wanted was what you want when you get it. And then you'll be like, oh, that's not what
I don't really want that.
We go this way, but you don't know. Like, and you'll always be wanting if you don't try to achieve things. And I think wanting is a part of growing. Like, I think you should and it's not to say that you shouldn't also be satisfied. You need to temper that with gratitude for where you are. Like, once you get something, you need to be like, Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
That arrived. And it's so important to sometimes look back as like we can get on this race of wanting, which I
Yeah.
think, like I said, will never end as long as you're alive.
Mhm.
But it's important to also like temper that with, wow, look around here. Like I prayed for that. I prayed for that. I prayed for that. And here it is. Like
Here they
like
are, yeah.
it's all here. Thank you for that. And sometimes
Mhm.
even when like I am praying, sometimes even when I am praying and like I'm very, what's the word, colloquial, like in prayer that like God is, we're like homies, like you know,
Right, yes. It's
try to
no these and those and
I don't try to be like formal and I don't put on like because like if God knows me, then God knows that what I sound like and what I speak like and who I am anyways, right? So I'll be like, you know, I thank you so much for all this stuff. I'm gonna ask for something else, but before I ask for something else, I just want to let you know that like it doesn't mean that I'm not appreciative of this and this and this and this, and this. But like I do try to like remind myself that like and let God know that I am grateful. I am grateful
yeah.
for the things that I have.
Yeah.
But here's what I want. Here's what I'm going to do next.
There was a practice that I adopted many years ago, referring to God as daddy, like in prayer.
That's nice.
Yeah. And like just having this conversation with daddy,
Oh, that's
and
really sweet.
yeah, like cutting out all the formalities, and all of the, what's expected when you say what and all that, just cutting
Yeah.
all that out and just have a chat. And
Totally.
it was really powerful. I found, I mean, I'm a daddy's girl, so it was
Mm.
simple for me to relate to this loving, being as daddy. But I found it was more powerful with young girls who did not have that daddy relationship, and it was filling a new void for them. But I definitely agree with the informality piece, like
Super
just
informal.
chat. Yeah.
And like I'll pray in the car, like wherever, because like this notion that God is in one place, I don't believe that
Right.
either. So
Yeah.
I pray wherever.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Just pick up the phone and call. Yeah.
It's always open.
Exactly. Now, you're living this amazing life, right? I don't know if you've reached all the goals and everything, but fr- from where we sit, it sounds superb. And we believe that this journey that we want to take our visionary women on throughout the year here at HERstory, this, you know, taking that bird's eye view and then coming in to clarify and define the vision, this giving space for voices, tapping into our own voice, amplifying the voices of others, this taking control of the version of our story, deciding what our next decisions will be so we can, as you said, create the story that we want told. That all this journey should lead us to living a victorious life, living a life of victory, not arriving at a point of victory, but living a life of victory. And victory is not a terminology that we generally hear in reference to women. And so I would love for you to paint a picture for us and tell us what imagery comes to your mind when you hear a word like victory.
Champagne. Fine. And I guess I say that because I think it's important to, when you do achieve something that you want, like to celebrate it. That's part of
Mhm.
recognizing that you need to be grateful and
Mhm.
aware of what you've already achieved. Like, not to say
Yeah.
that we're ever going to be, done until we're actually done, but to celebrate the wins so that you can acknowledge it, so you can stare at it. And if you believe in the law of attraction and manifestation, like you celebrating a win attracts more wins. Then it tells God, it tells the universe that like, oh, look, she's celebrating this event, she's celebrating this thing that happened, then that means that's, we want more of that. Then she wants more
Yeah.
of that. More of that can show up. But like imagine you gave somebody a gift and they're like, cool, thanks. And then they were
Yeah.
like, on to the next.
Yeah.
How likely are you to get them another gift? How
Yeah.
likely, or even if you are a super kind person and you were going to get them another gift, maybe you're not going to get them that gift again because you're like,
Right.
they didn't
You
really,
might budget down on the next one.
clearly like that wasn't the right gift for them. Maybe I won't give it. So I feel like stopping to celebrate the victories really tells your life vibration that like this is what you want, bring more of this,
More,
please.
yeah.
So like bring more of that, please. So to me, victory looks like celebration. And yeah, and not a final celebration, just like you said, like where there's no end point to it, but just like a bunch of little fireworks here and there as you go through life. Like, don't forget to smell the roses, but light some fireworks like along the way, and just enjoy life. Like, and I guess quite simply, like victory to me is happiness. Like, are you happy? Like, I think we complicate it so much. Like, especially when we were talking about finding your passion, like, and choosing in the career you like what makes you happy? Like, do the things that make you happy, and not even when it comes to something as serious as like your profession. Just like even in this moment, if it's Sunday for you and you happen to not be working, what are you doing then
What are you
when you are
doing?
not
Yes.
what are you doing
Yeah.
when you're not working? What makes you happy? Like, if sitting in front of the TV all day watching Netflix makes you happy, go for it. That's great, because sometimes people just need to relax, especially if you've been hustling all week. Then do that. But if you're doing it and you're not happy, then what would? Like, get up and make the choices that make you happy. Like, if you know what, I'd rather be having lunch with a friend. I get that, there's a lot of rules around that now, but things are opening up. If it wasn't a rainy day, like patios are open now. Like, you have to take some sort of action to find your victory. Like, and that's, to me, victory is synonymous with happiness. So like, victory to me is happiness and celebration. Like, we don't know how many lives we get after this. Maybe do we get other lives? Maybe we don't. Maybe after this is done, it's done. Like, so, got to spend some time, yes, having goals and achieving goals and raising kids and some things that, require work. But, in between all that, we have to be having more fun than this. You have to keep having fun. And like, if you can't do that with your career, and I understand that, then you got to find it in every other moment. There's so many other waking hours where you're not working. That you
Having fun was, I mean, a big paradigm shift for me, and then it actually made me realize how little I played as a child, and so then having a daughter and having to learn how to play, like play became work, because my mind is on the things on my computer that I would spend this time doing otherwise, and then to say, no, wait, hold on, stop. The world is not going to end if I don't respond to that email at this very present time. I can stop that for a minute and I can play. I can have fun. I can do things that make me happy. Those are big shifts for some of our visionary women, because we're so accustomed to the doing and the activity and the meeting the goals and the big conversations that we've been having, asking our visionary women about themselves and turning this conversation not about your organization, not about your business, but about you. These have been big shifts for us to recognize, oh, wait a minute, I have a vision for me. I know what my nonprofit mandate is. I know what my nonprofit vision is, sure, but I get to have one for me. I know what my 5-year plan is for my business, but do I have one for me?
Ooh, yes. Yeah. That brings me back to last night. So I have another really cool acting gig coming up, like the best acting gig coming up.
Oh, I can't wait.
It's going to take me to Ottawa to shoot for a few weeks. And so I'm the person who cooks at home for mostly. So Kirk has been stressing out my husband has been stressing out a little bit about what we're gonna do, like meal wise. So I'm like, what can we do? So I've been like preparing some things and like either completely cooking it and freezing it, or like just seasoning this or that and then putting directions on how to finish it like in the freezer. And yesterday when I was like, him and my daughter had gone out to see grandma. And so I was cooking and I was like by myself and I was like cooking like this here, all these different things. I realized, and it's so funny, not I realized, but I remembered that I love cooking. And you're so right, because I'm usually consumed with my work, which I do love my work. I love acting and I love my shop, Aries Garden. that I talked about. So 90% of the time I'm doing something for either of those businesses, like all the time. And much like yourself, sometimes even while playing with my daughter, like I'm still like, my mind is thinking about, but I have this to do and I have that to do kind of thing. And I'm not always in the moment. But in that moment, when I was like cooking something so simple or whatever, I was like really cooking, like I was really into it. And I was like, oh, like there's other aspects of me that like I just don't always pay attention to or tap into. But I'm like, I like cooking and I'm good at it. Like I like having my hands in things and I love playing with spices and trying new things. And you're totally right. Like we can find like victory is even in that, because I'm just like, as I was doing it, I'm like, I am a bomb wife. I'm like, I'm gonna be so good.
And celebrate the things that make you happy. Yes,
Totally.
absolutely. Oh man, Lisa Michelle, thank you so very, very much for joining us and gracing our stage with your presence. I really appreciate it. I believe the link that's posted with this video is, am I saying it right? Is it Orange Moon? Did I say that right?
Orange Moon Entertainment.
There we go. Thank you. So that's posted with this video in case anybody wants to be able to send a hologram, greeting card. All right. Hook up with Lisa Michelle and make sure that you stay connected with her and find out all the different ways that she can help you and serve you. And if you want some more, you want to see more of what she's doing, check out her IMDb as well. It's very, to me, I'm like, oh my God, I know somebody who's like on Netflix, right? Like it's like a big deal, right?
I can't talk about it for God knows how long.
I know. Soon.
Yeah. I'll tell you.
Oh my gosh. And if you want to go deeper with us, if you've been enjoying these conversations and you want to know more about where we're going with this whole voice, what am I talking about? Vision, voice, version, and victory conversation with our visionary women, then come aboard and become a member and join our masterminds. Our members are treated to 5 masterminds every month, and these are led by 5 different facilitators, literally from all across the world, lots of different perspectives, and we're having these conversations, presentations, live Q&As, live coaching, group coaching, breakout sessions. I mean, we're bringing everything for you. And so you become a member, join and enjoy these masterminds that you can tap into every single month. And if you want to hang out with us, we have an event coming up on April 16th. It's called Hey Sister, Let's Color. And we are literally grown women going to sit down on Zoom and color together. Yes, we are. Yes, and we're going to have fun. You are being instructed to have fun. And we are going to hang out and get into conversation with the author of the Soulful coloring book, Sophia Soje Jackson, who is also the voice behind our videos. So every time you hear our theme song, Hey Sister, that is Sophia Soje Jackson, and she's going to be leading this conversation. And we did this event, we did like a mini one to test it out in January. And, it was, like, really, are we like grown women just going to sit here and color, like, for real? And then it was so much fun, and everybody who was there in January are ready to come back. So make sure that you're there to hang out with us and to be a part of these conversations. Get your me gifts, because, we made sure that we do have some ways for you to celebrate yourself. So get your me gift that's been curated by Divine Executive Concierge Inc. And so, she's accustomed to putting together, especially curating these packages for entrepreneurs to say thank you to their clients and their customers, for business owners to say thank you to employees. And she's put together a special gift for us so you can say thank you to you. And all of this is in celebration of the work being done by the Beautiful Foundation, our nonprofit partner for 2021. We strongly believe in social entrepreneurship and in making an impact in our communities. And so in doing so, we lead by example, and we connect with a nonprofit every year. And this year we have chosen the Beautiful Foundation, an amazing organization led by amazingly powerfully phenomenal women. I mean, some of their stories have been such big big transformations. I'm hearing women who worked as sex workers, women who, suffered from substance abuse, now talk about, getting their university degrees and wanting to be a light for other women who haven't found that path yet, and recognizing their journey, their story, and the power that their story gives to other women to rewrite and recreate their own story. So they work with women and children who are facing economic disenfranchisement. They are living in homeless shelters. They are incarcerated. They work with these women and work with their children to help them by recognizing their own beautiful, looking at them in their unbeautiful circumstance and calling them beautiful and encouraging them to rise to their highest level of beautiful. And so that's why we have joined with the Beautiful Foundation this year. And we encourage all of you to come into the room, sister, come on board, come get on the train. It's pulling out of the station. And thank you so much for joining us, Lisa Michelle. Thank you
so much for having me. It was my pleasure, honestly.
Gosh. Any final words of wisdom for our sisters before we say good afternoon?
Oh, well, be blessed, have fun, find your voice, find that victory, celebrate. And because I'm going to go off to do a very fun movie shoot, I'm closing my Aries Garden store tonight. So go to HERstory.com. You can shop till midnight. You're going to find some really good, feel-good spiritual and self-care gifts there.
Nice. Run, y'all. That's midnight Eastern time, right?
Eastern time, yeah, midnight.
Eastern time. Yeah.
Shop is closed.
I don't want my Vancouver people being like,
We went there and the site is like
yeah. All right, guys. So midnight. Give them the website one more time.
HERsgarden.com. So Aries as in the zodiac sign, because we're in Aries season. HERsgarden.com. And there you can get like incense, sage, crystals, candles, all the beautiful things.
Yes, I'll make sure that link is posted as well.
Thank you.
Right, so you're welcome. Great. So thank you, sisters, for joining us. And if you're catching the replay, just remember to #replay and let us know what has resonated with you today. Until tomorrow, oh my gosh, we only have 2 more to go, but until tomorrow, I'll be back here with you at noon Eastern time with yet another phenomenal woman. You do not want to miss that. I will see you then. Bye, everyone.
Hey, sister, sitting store, what am I about to preach on? Damn, sister, close the door. Watch what you step out on. I said, hey, sister, so before you become a sin, I said, hey, sister, there is more, even if you think there isn't. When you live your life day to day, there will always be obstacles in your way.